We're continuing with our review of the hindrances. We spent quite a few weeks going over each of the hindrances in detail, and last week we did a review of the first two, which are the most important ones, desire and ill will. And now we're going to try and cover the last three today.
Which are not Marilyn.
Torpor,
Yes.
restlessness,
Dullness and drowsiness, restless and remorse.
doubt.
And the last one's so slippery. Doubt.
Okay, so we're starting with dullness and drowsiness, or lethargy and drowsiness. And the old term is sloth and torpor. So for me, I have a fair amount of this with my body aging and not sleeping well. And a really important thing I found for me is not to set up a self-fulfilling prophecy. Not to think, oh, it's time for puja, it's like time for the meditation sit, and I'm so tired, I'm just going to fall asleep. I've learned not to say that to myself, because I have learned repeatedly over the years that even though I may be feeling kind of dull and drowsy, that when I sit down to meditate, the majority of the time it's okay. The majority of the time I can focus and do the meditation. And then it's just the occasional time where my head's dropping, I'm jerking awake. So in those cases, it's best just to go have a nap. But so the big thing is don't say to yourself, oh, I won't be able to meditate. I'm too dull or too drowsy, because that just may not be the case. One of the things I've got down here on my list for dullness and drowsiness as an antidote is investigation. So the big thing is to be the knower, not the beer. So don't say, I'm dull and drowsy, or I have sloth and torpor, but instead say, oh, dullness has arisen, or oh, lethargy has arisen. And that helps you look at, okay, what are the conditions that has led to this? And if we can put in some energy, and an investigation takes some energy. If we put in some energy, or effort, I should say, if we put in some effort to do the investigation, then effort leads to energy. And I've experienced that so much in my life. You're just feeling horrible, but if you just push yourself to just get started, make that effort, then the energy seems to come. And something that's really worked well for me is to make the effort to do the anussati meditations, or they're called reflections, and there's 6 of them, or 8 of them, anyway. Six. So these are the recollections or reflections on the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, generosity, morality, and the deities. And that has worked really, really well for me, not only to arouse some energy, but also to arouse joy, to gladden the mind. It's a really beautiful way to gladden the mind. Another method for dullness and drowsiness is urgency. Do a death meditation. You could, have a sudden heart attack, or get run over by a truck, or, whatever. So it looks like life is going on for a while, but something could happen that cuts it short. I just read in the newspaper that a little 2-year-old girl, the family was camping here in the mountains, and she must have stepped into the river and got washed away, and she died. Like one moment alive and vital with a life ahead of her, and the next moment gone. So death meditation can help us develop some urgency. But don't keep putting it off, saying I'm too dull and drowsy. May not have another opportunity. And another antidote to dullness and drowsiness is to change the meditation object to something more energizing or less subtle. Sometimes if we're doing breath meditation, our breath can get so subtle that we're just knowing we're breathing, but we're not really feeling it anymore. So if you could move somewhere else in your body where the breath, you can feel it a little more strongly, or maybe get up and do walking meditation or something that's a bit more energizing. Okay, anything to add?
Sure. This, I think, is a very, very, very common, very, very common hindrance. I personally have all this energy stuff going on in my body, so this is a hindrance I don't struggle with very much. So I actually listened to some talks about it. So I'm going to share things that other people are using that are working well. But they're really great, actually. And the first thing is, with dullness and drowsiness, it's great. We're going to talk about dullness and drowsiness, and then the other imbalance in the energy of restlessness. But I think the first thing, dullness and drowsiness, it's sort of important to know, is this a hindrance or am I just really tired? And there is a difference. I mean, there are times that we're just really tired. And I think if you're on retreat, you can really tell. Because if the dullness and drowsiness is there in the meditation, but then the minute the meditation's over and like, oh, lunch, and like there's no feeling of tiredness, you can know. You can really know, oh, this is an energy imbalance within my mind body. At home in the daily life, I've had one teacher say, if you're not sure, am I tired or am I, is there a hindrance here? And you're on your own and you're meditating, you're not in a group. You can really determine it by just read a book, read 2 or 3 pages in a book. And if you're struggling with that and still feeling, you're probably tired. And Ajahn Brahm is really adamant about not fighting it. If you're tired, you're tired. And even he will talk about, he will sometimes actually just, relax and during the meditation and let himself nod off for a little bit and then, be able to have a wonderful meditation after meeting the need of the body mind just resting and being resourced. So if you've figured out, oh no, this is clearly the hindrance, and if it's something that comes up often in your meditation, or it comes up, regardless of when in the day you meditate, then you can know, oh, that this is a hindrance that visits me at this time. It's something I need to be working with. And a very simple thing is to put more focus, more emphasis on the in-breath. The in-breath organically, naturally, is energizing to every single cell in the body. So if there's some dullness, some flatness in the meditation, you can put more emphasis on the in-breath. It's right there for you, for brightening the mind. In the suttas, it's very clear instructions to think about light, and especially if you're a visual person, like this can be extremely powerful and helpful. Don't feel nervous or be afraid to use your imagination, and you can imagine a sunrise, or maybe even remember a sunrise. You can think about a very bright light. This brightens the mood, it brightens the mind, it brightens the energy. And short of that, you can actually just open your eyes. And then you can also stand up. And that's a fantastic thing to do. You just stand up for a couple of minutes. Along with this idea of standing, or maybe longer, maybe you finish out the meditation standing, and remain with your meditation object and notice how it really is a immediate antidote to the heaviness. You think about the mind-body, the mind conditions the body conditions the mind. Short of standing up, if there is some dullness and drowsiness, we know what that looks like. We know what that feels like. It's a crouching down, and there's a downward movement. So even just to reaffirm the upright posture and put some energy into the spine and energy into being up can lift the mind, can lift the energy, and that's sort of addressing it physically. And the other thing is you can address it within the meditation of just expanding the awareness to include the whole body, maybe even expand the awareness to include the whole room, like increase the space of what you're paying attention to. Because dullness and drowsiness, it is this down and curling. It's like when we're going to sleep, we're doing the same thing, and sometimes the awareness is doing that. It's just sort of collapsing. So the last thing I want to say about dullness and drowsiness, you try a few antidotes and it's still, no, this is pretty full on, it's pretty heavy duty. For sure, dullness and drowsiness can be very much a hindrance and arising in our meditation when there's something else that we're not really ready or wanting or open or willing to look at. So if you're trying all these antidotes and wow, mind's just heavy, the heart is heavy, there very well could be some difficult emotion at the fringes, at the edges of consciousness that you're blocking out, and the way you're blocking it out is kind of to fog out, to numb out. There could very well be some grief or anger or loneliness or disappointment or sadness, something that maybe you're not yet willing to allow to arise up. So that's one other thing. If there's quite a bit of dullness and drowsiness and it's not responding to these suggestions about addressing the energy, it could very well be that it's a strategy that's arising for you to prevent a wave of something more difficult. And so if you can just trust your mind, trust your body, trust your heart, trust the path, trust the process, and it sort of falls in this investigation idea. You just pose the question, is there something there that I'm not yet willing, and maybe even say, I'm willing to feel what's needing to be felt. I'll try my best to stay here and be with it and care about it. Yeah.
Okay, do you want to start off restlessness?
Restlessness, sure. So restlessness is really, like Sarah was mentioning on Tuesday night, you've got desire and aversion, and they're really just flip sides of the same energy. Desire is wanting something, and aversion is wanting something different. They're very, very closely related. And dullness and drowsiness and restlessness also have this relationship where they're just the flip side of some kind of energy imbalance, or what I was talking about at the end of talking about sloth and torpor, some strategy or some habit of mind of not being fully present with something that's more painful or difficult or uninvited or unexpected. Yeah. So, like with dullness and drowsiness, with focusing on the in-breath, the same holds for restlessness. The out-breath naturally is a release. It's a letting go. It's a calming. It's a soothing. So if there's agitation, you can put more emphasis on the out-breath. You can extend it. You can bring the attention to it, and you can become really aware of it in the body, and that can be calming. I think with restlessness, this is something I definitely struggle with more than with dullness and drowsiness. It's challenging. Restlessness has this energy of like doing, and the antidote really is to as much as possible still, stop. And so with all of the hindrances, relax, relax, relax. With all of the meditation, relax, relax, relax. But restlessness especially, because there's a going up, and so in the body, in the mind, in the mind is tending to move quickly. So the more you can just make a little bit of a determination, try just for a short time, even so that you succeed at it. Of just I'm gonna try and just be still and not fight this energy, and deal with the aversion that might be there to it, and just try and be still. Keep the eyes still. Even sometimes when the body's still, when there's lots of thinking, you'll notice, wow, actually my eyes aren't still. My eyes aren't relaxed. And I think one other thing that I've found helpful is just to follow the instructions, like sort of re-instruct the mind, and don't beat yourself up. Like, oh, I'm just going to go back to square one. I'm just going to bring the mind back to the meditation object. Like you hear that many teachers talk about, like training a puppy, with kindness, with care, and trust this will work. I'll just keep coming back, even if my entire meditation right now this morning, because there's agitation, I'll just come back. And even if you don't feel like, wow, and then I just looked at that hindrance and it dissolved and I was settled, even if that wasn't your experience, even if the entire meditation, there's this this hindrance there lurking, it's your experience. You can trust the overall path, like it's okay. I'm training the mind, I'm coming back to the meditation object. I'm staying positive. Very powerful. And then you end the meditation knowing, yeah, I was practicing. I was dealing with hindrances, yes. And it wasn't, peace, love, and Bobby Sherman the whole time, but I was following the Buddha's teachings. I was following the instructions, and it can be it can end up being a very positive experience, and faith building, and not discouraging, challenging, yes, but not discouraging. Keeping gas in your tank.
Okay. So the first thing I want to mention is prevention of restlessness. And that's wise attention to calm. So when you're, all the times that you're not restless and you're feeling calm, just really focus on the subtle pleasure of being calm. And then when restlessness does arise, you can remember that. You can bring that to mind. And you can also see this restlessness as impermanent, because you have experienced calm. You can remember that. And so you don't freak out so much because you realize this is just an impermanent state and it's going to end. Now, many teachers, as Ayya has just said, say that if you're restless, don't move. And if you're able to do that, it's very good, because if you're not fueling the agitation, it's going to eventually settle, and then you get this success experience. Like you realize it is impermanent and it does end, and so then that helps you to be less freaked out about it when you do get anxious. But for some people, it's just really, really difficult to do that. And so then we can use the Buddha's fourth method, Majjhima Nikaya 20, very famous sutta on the 5 ways to stop thinking. The fourth method is sort of this stepping down, gradually bringing down. And so I found it's very helpful to match the agitation, so match it with physical exertion. So do jogging meditation if you have to, or, running or fast walking if you're able, or running up and down the stairs or skipping rope, something that's physical that matches the energy in your mind. And then gradually step that down. If you're running, then go more slowly, then walking, then standing, and then maybe you can get to sitting. So it's just a gradual stepping down. If it's not that serious, then Ajahn Dhammo talks about beginning your meditation with a gradual step down. Don't just plop yourself down on the cushion and try and start watching your breath or whatever, but first of all, enter your space where you're going to meditate, and maybe do 3 bows reflecting on the Dhamma, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, maybe doing some chanting, reading a sutta, and then finally being with your meditation object. But again, it's just sort of a gradual stepping down. Another thing is, I think applies to all of the hindrances, is instead of saying, like, oh, I'm agitated or I'm so restless, instead saying, oh, agitation has risen, or oh, restlessness has arisen. Looking at what you're doing, is it wholesome or unwholesome? If we're agitated, then we're likely putting unwise attention onto something that's unwholesome. And again, the definition of unwholesome is it's causing suffering. And usually when we're agitated, we're suffering. Now, this hindrance has got two parts. It's restlessness and remorse. So remorse is feeling badly because of something we've done, or maybe something that we didn't do that we think we should have done. So I think it's important when you're feeling that remorse to feel the hot coal of that remorse in your hand. This is another way of talking about stabbing ourselves with the second arrow. Like, it's just burning us. It's just, it's not helping us to be bringing this remorse to mind. So all we want to do is make a determination to act more virtuously or more kindly or with more generosity the next time this situation comes up, and then let it go. Because holding on to that remorse is like holding on to a hot coal. We're just hurting ourselves. We're not doing any good. And another way to deal with remorse is to think about being on your deathbed. Like, how important is this issue, at the end of your life? Okay, should I start with doubt?
Sure.
Okay, our final one. We're going to do it. We're going to get through it. So doubt can be about the teachings of the Buddha. It can be about the Buddha himself, like was he truly fully awakened? Are his teachings valid? Are they going to be helpful? Is the Noble Eightfold Path the right path? The gradual training, is it the correct training? Or the doubt can be about ourselves. We can say, oh, I totally believe in what the Buddha said. I've seen this be helpful to others, but I can't do it. Like there's something wrong with me. I'm not able to do this. So for the first type of doubt, when we're concerned about, are the teachings right? The Buddha said, "Ehipassiko, come and see. Don't just take my word for it. Come and see." So it means having enough faith to give it a try, and then my experience is when you give it a try, you get good results, and so that gives you confirmed faith, and then that totally destroys the doubt part, because you've experienced for yourself that, oh, this works, and not that we're going to sit down and become fully enlightened and know that the full enlightenment works, but we get other things along the way where we see how our suffering is gradually being stepped back. We're suffering less. And then that gives us encouragement that the other teachings are also going to work if we put in the time and the effort. Certainly talking to a teacher or someone with, who's further along in the practice than you is helpful. Studying the suttas. Then for the self-doubt, I sort of mentioned that already in the dullness and drowsiness. For me, it's just the faith, because I've experienced, I've just experienced so much less suffering in my life since I've been studying what the Buddha has taught. That just gives me faith to keep on going, and to realize, yeah, maybe it won't happen in this lifetime, but if I just keep putting in the causes and conditions, keep nibbling away at it, keep working away at it, one of these lifetimes, the final result will come.
And Beth often says, if it's slow this lifetime, it'll be quicker next lifetime. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah. I'll just say a couple of things. Doubt is, I think, the most slippery of the five hindrances. And it seems almost to be the most sneaky, creeping in to our meditation. And it's a bit like dullness and drowsiness. You need to find out it and investigate, is this the hindrance of doubt, or is this just like really valid questioning, and not be, again, don't be afraid of questioning how you're doing things, or questioning is like the Buddha is saying that this is a very wise. He's very much encouraging us to be curious and questioning. I think that's even why ahipasiko, like come and see, come and investigate. And so you can tell by the energetic feel, questioning and wondering and being curious can have a creativity to it and a vitality. Whereas the hindrance of doubt is sort of a circular questioning. It's got an energy of paralysis and sort of a swimming feeling, a spinning feeling. So if there are questions coming up, or even some creative play in your meditation, like, I just want to encourage that. Don't feel like, oh, I've never heard anyone suggest to do this, so I shouldn't. No, if you have an idea like, oh, if I thought about the breath in this way, or if I, tried this mantra, or whatever it is, and even, your meditation position. Well, I've never heard about anyone talking about meditating in an easy chair, a lazy boy. But if actually you end up, wow, my body's so relaxed, and feel free to be creative and come up with your own ideas. Super important. So I think that knowing if it's doubt, you can tell by the effect on the mind body. If you're feeling stuck or it's causing some anxiety, it's probably the hindrance of doubt. We did a whole talk on, and I'm not going to go into blow by blow antidotes. Antidotes. Yeah. And if you are struggling with doubt, I would list. That's actually a hindrance I struggle with almost the most. So I would really suggest, if that's something that you struggle with a lot, I think it's very useful to listen to some Dhamma talks specifically on doubt, and try some of the instructions that different teachers are giving. Very helpful. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll open this up for discussion. Antidotes to the hindrances.
And any anecdotes you care to share.
That's right.
And people online too, please. Are people clear which hindrances they struggle with? You don't need to share what they are, but is that something that's clear for people in their practice?
Yes. Sure. Yes.
Excellent. No, that's great. Yeah. And it is useful if you identified, oh, these are some of the ones I struggle with the most. to listen to some Dhamma talks specifically on those. Yeah.
And this is the major work of our practice. Yeah, because once we get those hindrances, once we let go of them, then things really move. So yeah, so the two major aspects are letting go of the hindrances and cultivating the factors of awakening. But yeah, so this is big, major. Corey.
When we were speaking of restlessness, I've been really trying to change it to it's like my superpower. It's not a hindrance because it feels like it's just one more thing to judge myself in. So it's my superpower, and I have to manage my superpower better instead of looking at it as sort of a negative, which I don't really want to do anymore because I've done that to death. Right. I know I struggle with restlessness, but it's also been a real positive thing in my life, really positive. So look at it as a positive solution to restlessness.
Yeah, so that's
Feels
beautiful.
better.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
If you find something that works or an individual way to do it, that's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
And less judging of it of being as a hindrance. That's the thing, I think.
Yeah. And that falls in. So Corey, you just found your own personal way of not taking it personally. Like, this is an energy, this is a force, and it's one that I have quite a bit of, i.e. superpower. Yeah. And I don't know all of the, I think it's more with the desire of aversion and delusion, but there are teachings that talk about like the flip. So the person who's got a lot of desire ends up, when that is transformed, has a tremendous amount of faith. Person who has a lot of aversion, as that's transformed, has so it is their superpower. Yeah.
Has what?
The ill will, you end up with a lot of wisdom. A lot of wisdom.
I'm going to say mine was David Cassidy, not Bobby Sherman. Pretty sure it wasn't even David Cassidy.
That is an expression. Yeah. I actually don't know who Bobby Sherman is. I just heard the expression. I think he's a bit too old.
Well, it is, but it would be our generation.
Really?
Yeah. Putting him up in our lockers at school.
Yeah.
Grade 7.
Yeah.
Not as much as David Cass. Oh, I know. He didn't hold the candle.
And just the way things were back then, David Cassidy never ended up like with a big fortune. He ended up being a commodity that other people made a big fortune off of. Yeah.
Marilyn.
Well, it's something when I get up now, I'm just trying to get my practice energized, and I think, oh, I'm going to meditate today, and it's kind of exciting. I want to come and sit at home, so I don't struggle with restlessness or drowsiness at all. It just isn't there, because I think I just come almost excited, like, oh, I'm going to meditate. If I'm here at the monastery, I get to meditate with people and feel the energy in the room, the softness. But so it's just quite a delight to be energized, and it really helps me to put that little note into myself in the morning, a memo to Marilyn, get energized. I'm feeling good.
Yeah, it's changing it from a have to a want to.
Oh,
It's
100%.
like a gift to be able to. You know, I had a friend in Arizona and she suddenly developed dementia and it was just terrible. And we had to do all this stuff and get rid of her house. And it's just all within a weekend. It was overwhelming. Yeah. And then I thought, wow, you know, the whole brain, like right now, I have the ability to meditate. That may not always be so. So to turn it around to
100%. Totally.
Yeah. Looking at someone that's wow on the other side of the mental spectrum.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that urgency that
Yeah.
yeah.
The urgency coupled with tremendous feeling of contentment. You know, you don't want it's like Corey's touching on, you don't want the urgency to be fueling more anxiety or more feelings of not doing enough, not good enough. Like the urgency, if it's out of balance, so much is about balance. The urgency, if it's out of balance, ends up feeding some craving, you know, or, you know, quicker progress. So it needs to be countered with contentment, which is what you're doing by how you're framing those two things together. It's very skillful. Really, really wholesome. You know, that is the litmus test. You know, if I'm framing something in a way, like Marilyn sharing, you're sharing, Corey, you're framing something in a certain way, and it's actually an uplift for the mind, it's, you know, energizing for the practice, then that's your answer. You don't need to ask any teacher, is this right that I think about it like this? If it's working, then, and so we can start knowing, and that's where we can start, you know, easing up and feeling free to be creative, do it different ways.
Yeah, that movement too away from judging, self-judging, right? Like, well, I'm not doing it right. This is not how the book says I should do it. Wonder why it's not working for me, because I am not the book.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
Okay, so today is mudita, being happy for the happiness of others.
Oh, joy.
Sanghamitta.
Yeah.
Could we see the people?
Yeah.
Because
So-
one woman, I think I know, and I just have to see if it's
Right.
her.
Okay, I'm just going to end the recording here.